Hello YouTube, this is Professor Singha. I want to now do the second video on input and output in C programming. Output was done using printf. Input requires another function called Scanf. We are going to discuss that. So let's get started. So these are the basics for data input using Scanf in C program. Data input from keyboard requires three things. It requires a variable that would hold user entered data, and that variable needs to be declared beforehand. Well, you can't store something unless you have something to store into. Programmer should have taken caution that declared variable would successfully store user input data. This is not always guaranteed, but guidance given to user can help. Data mismatch, if that happens, then input will fail. That requires a lot of extra coding to make sure that doesn't happen. We don't do that extra coding in basic classes. Then user is prompted to input data using printf. Whatever you do in printf shows up on the screen. User knows what to do. They enter the data, press the enter key. And then scanf function is used to store data that user has entered from the keyboard, and we store that into intended variable. Okay. Let's say we want to input single piece of data. You could do multiple data at the same time, but we're not going to do that right now. So in scanf, first argument is the format string for the variable that would be populated, and that obviously necessitates that variable must be declared before being populated. There is a rule called define before use. Any use like outputting, inputting require that variable must be declared or defined. Second argument is the address of the variable to be populated in the RAM for the program. We give example for integer, then example for floating point. Okay. Imagine that we need user to input age on last birthday. Then overall 3-line program would look like this. We declare a variable to hold the age on last birthday, int age. Okay. And then we do this output using printf that enter the age on the last birthday. It must be a whole number. And then we do scanf. %d is the format string. Address of the variable age is given as a direction to the computer that is store the value entered by the user into this address, which is address of the variable age. Okay. Now, the way scanf is done here, the first argument, which is %d, tells the user or the computer, sorry, that we would be storing user input into an int variable. Remember from the previous video that format string for the integer is %d. We do that, and that of course age has already been declared. And the second argument, this one, tells the computer the memory address of variable where user input to be stored. So these two directions again map with each other. First one tells sorry. First one tells the identity of the data, that it's a integer type. Second one gives the memory location. The symbol ampersand appended to the variable name tells the computer the memory address of the variable age. Very often, error in use of scanf is to forget using this ampersand. And honestly speaking, if I'm in a hurry, I'll probably end up making the same error. So you have to be very careful that you don't miss this ampersand sign. Without that, address of variable has not been specified, and the computer wouldn't know where to store the data. Okay, we'll show second example of storing the floating point number. So here imagine we wish student to input their current GPA, and overall code for would be these 3 lines of code. We need the holding place, so we declare double GPA. We prompt user enter current GPA, and then format string for double is LF. This is not IF, it is LF. So we do %LF to tell computer that the memory that is coming after this, after comma, is a double precision or long float type memory. And once again we give the address of that memory location, okay, where computer will store the user input. Okay, now we go to Xcode and show you this and more. Input of characters, input of string, and everything. So let's go to Xcode. So in Xcode, I have declared a whole bunch of variables. I'm not gonna keep track of. There's a special reason to do input in certain order. I'm not gonna worry about the order issue right now. So this array char name, the way we are doing it here, can only store one token, like first name only. If you put a space, then it's going to ignore rest of it. To store the whole line, we have to use other functions like fgets, which I will not discuss today. I'll discuss that in future sometime. But right now, we will use a strategy to store just one piece of text like first name. This will store middle initial, age, and GPA. Now, so first we ask user enter your middle initial only, and scanf function knows that %C is the format string for char, C for char, and we give it middle initial memory address location where it will be stored. Then we ask them their first name. %S is the format string for the string. But notice we don't put an ampersand here. The reason being that this declaration, the way we have done here, name already stores the memory address where whatever user types after this display should be done. So name already contains a memory address. You don't have to specify ampersand name in this case. Why this is so will become clear when we have done arrays. So it's not going to become clear in any short order. Okay? So in this case, we only need format string and just the variable name, not the ampersand sign. All other cases will need ampersand sign. Then we enter age on the last birthday, and since that is an int type, we give a format string for integer %d, and ampersand age is the address of the memory location where age will be stored. And finally, we ask them to enter their current GPA, and GPA is a double type memory, long float, and double is the same thing. So we give the format string for that, and address. So we give address in all cases except when we use the character array. Okay. And once that is done, all these memory locations are populated: name, middle initial, age, and GPA. I use the composite printf to print it. Okay. So now I think we can just run the program and see how it works. Okay. So I'm going to come up here, run the program. So I enter the middle initial only, P, enter first name only, John, 21, 3.5. And let me enlarge this now so that you can see how this printf is happening, because it's going to happen now. So notice hello John P was done here, that is shown here. You are 21 years old is done here. Your current GPA is 3.5. And already I have explained in a previous video how mapping of the format string and the variable name or the variable data, this mapping with that, this mapping with that, and finally this mapping with that is done. That's the printf that we did in the previous output video. So that's how we do input using Scanf. And there are no surprises really if we are doing input of integers and floating point data and character data only. There could be surprises if there are character left in the stream when we're doing this string input. That will require more time, more code. In future, we'll do a video on inputting longer strings using something called fgets, and at that time more details will be provided. This was pretty basic, simple introduction to inputting simple data. Okay, so that's all I'm going to do for now, and thanks for watching. Thanks again. Bye.